Have you ever seen a politician do a complete 180 on a major issue? Well, today, we're looking at a wild one. We're going to unpack how a top diplomat totally flipped his script on a critical international crisis, and he did it in just 2 weeks.
All right, so let's get right into it. On one hand, you have Turkey's foreign minister Hakan Fidan basically saying, don't worry, Iran's got this. And then, boom, just a short time later, he's saying, actually, Iran totally dropped the ball. So the big question is, what on earth happened to cause such a massive shift?
To really get what's going on here, we have to look at the timeline. In geopolitics, a couple of weeks can change everything. And for this minister, it was enough time for his credibility to just, well, evaporate.
So, picture this. It's February 9th. Minister Fidan is on a live TV interview, cool as a cucumber. He's telling everyone there's no real threat of war, that Turkish diplomacy has it all under control. Everything's fine. He even laughed off the idea that airstrikes could take down Iran's government, calling it an empty dream. Fast forward just 2 weeks, and reality comes knocking, loud. And suddenly, we're seeing a totally different Hakan Fidan.
And this, wow, this is where it gets really interesting. The reversal isn't just a small change in tone, it's brutally blunt. He goes from being reassuring to pretty much saying, well, Iran, you should have been better prepared. You can imagine, a U-turn that sharp is going to cause some serious whiplash, not just in Turkey, but all over the region.
And of course, a flip-flop like this doesn't just fly under the radar. Oh no, the backlash was immediate, it was fierce, and those earlier words, they came back to bite him, and fast. This quote just sums up the reaction at home perfectly. His political opponents had a field day with it, right? They jumped all over the contradiction, basically saying, see, they had no idea what was coming. And you know how it goes, social media took it from there, and pretty soon, the minister's confident statement became a running joke.
Look, the key thing to get here is that this was way more than just a communications gaffe. It had real-world fallout. Turkey's allies were left scratching their heads, the government was on the back foot, trying to deny they were caught by surprise. And get this, Fidan himself just vanished from the public eye for 4 whole days, right when things were heating up.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question. Why the complete 180? Was this some big, calculated shift in Turkey's foreign policy? Well, the answer seems to be not really. It looks like this was less about grand strategy and a lot more about something much more personal. Political survival.
Okay, to figure out what was going through Fidan's mind, we've got to pull back the curtain a bit. There's a concept here, something that happens behind the scenes in the corridors of power that explains a lot.
It's this idea of political contamination. See, for years, Fidan was known as the Iran guy in Turkey. He was the main connection, the expert. That was a huge asset. But when Iran suddenly looked weak and unprepared, that connection turned toxic. All of a sudden, being the Iran guy wasn't an advantage, it was a massive political liability.
And remember, Fidan is a former spy master. He knows the playbook. And in that world, when your partner or your asset gets compromised, your first move isn't to stand by them. It's damage control. You cut them loose, you put some distance between you, and you take charge of the story. So his switch from Iran's fine to Iran messed up, that's a classic move. It's pure self-preservation.
And make no mistake, this wasn't really a message for the world. This was a defensive play aimed right at the political chess game back in Ankara. In that kind of environment, where everyone is jockeying for position and wondering who's next in line, any slip-up, any miscalculation, it's blood in the water for your rivals. Fidan was just protecting his own turf.
So what you have is a politician caught in a trap of his own making. Because of all this pressure, he'd created 2 totally different, totally contradictory versions of himself. And he did it in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, think about it. In February, he's playing the role of the calm, cool mediator for the whole region, trying to keep things from boiling over. But by March, he's suddenly the guy with the clipboard walking through the wreckage, assigning blame to the very same people he was defending just a few days before.
And here's the bottom line. What this whole thing really shows us, a country's big-picture foreign policy goals, they might not change. But for an individual politician, the personal risks can change in a heartbeat. And when that happens, you better believe their public statements are going to change right along with them.
It's a really good question to end on, right? As Minister Fidan tries to navigate this, he's learning a tough lesson of modern politics. You can say something new, but you can never outrun the recording of what you said before. The internet never forgets.